I was fascinated by the staff advice because this was, of course, this is impacted by a red zoning decision. So would you like to just explain the situation of the Mataku waterway drain so that there's just sort of a general overview of it? Because, I mean, it just seems to me that we're left in a... And don't mention the tidal barrage. It's not either or. It's, you know, it's just focus on the issue of the Mataku drain.
What happened, my understanding there, is it got partly built through a subdivision, and stage 2 of the subdivision was going to happen. Stage 2 of the subdivision became red zone, so the stage 2 didn't happen. And the development contributions from that stage 2 were going to pay for the finish of that. Obviously, it is a piece of unfinished drainage works, and what I'd be suggesting is that it will come through as a priority or not as a priority in the prioritised list of physical works that need to be done as we get through and do the analysis, so that we put, or you put, the money towards the most deserving project. So from our point of view is we recognise it's there, and we will make sure that we get the right assessment back to you at some stage, but basically to there's not the work being done to show that it's actually deserves a priority above a number of other things in the land drainage program.
So given the conversation that we just had before on Wairapa and Waiti, it's not included in the in the assessment process. So we could simply indicate to you today that we'd like it to be assessed in that prioritisation work next year, in the next financial year.
It never, you know, it's a slightly different to the rest of the program because obviously it hasn't had any earthquake damage. It's just a partly completed project. So,
but it's
looking at whole drainage infrastructure, we'll get a consideration of where it fits.
Using, you know, entirely appropriate language, given it's a direct flow-on effect from the red zoning decision. Yeah. So, I mean, is there a conversation that we should be having with central government about this project for that reason? Because it is a direct flow-on effect. We've got a partially completed project that we fully anticipated being funded by development contributions. That leaves, you know, and I was going to use the remaining people as high and dry, but that's completely the wrong expression to use under the circumstances, if you see what I mean. So, I mean, that might be possible to do that as well.
So it is a project, while it hasn't been damaged by the earthquake, has been impacted by the earthquake, and so certainly I think it's appropriate to have that conversation with the Crown as well.
Yep. Yanni?
Check. So the land drainage program is only earthquake related?
It's principally earthquake related, trying to bring back some of the appropriate levels of service, but we will be looking at prioritisation right across the whole of the catchment.
It's the land drainage recovery program, Yanni. It's a recovery program.
Okay. So I just want to understand in terms of the flooding task force how those recommendations are feeding into the prioritisation or the projects that were identified through that, which this one was, feeding into the whole.
So the recommendations from the flooding task force were divided into two groups. One group that went across into the land drainage recovery program for further investigation works and perhaps capital works, and then the other group that went across into our land drainage operations program.
Right.
And I think this one went across into the operations program.
How can we get visibility of the operations program, and how can we get an understanding of what's actually being done?
Well, I think the simplest thing would be to report that change through to a ITI committee at some point.
We've got our land drainage, Pauline's note here, working group, so we get visibility of things like that through that. And in fact, you're very welcome to come to that. I'm sure we can put it on the agenda and just simply do a briefer.
So this is the operations program as opposed to the recovery program?
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
So
does that go through that group? So,
yep.
Okay.
So what's the current budget for that?
I'd have to follow that up and get back to you.
Okay. Does it have any capacity to do any projects that have been identified through the flooding task force?
The question is the Mataku waterway drain in the project? Is it in the operations program at any point in the next 10 years?
We'll follow that up and find out.
Well, it's not, because it says it's not in the staff response. So there's no funding available for it. I'm just trying to...
No, that doesn't say that, Yanni. What it says is that it's not the Land Drainage Recovery Program's role to fund operations program. That's what they mean by BAU.
So what I'm trying to understand, like, so we had people that got flooded in the events. We spent a lot of time and money looking at the responses to those. The land drainage is going to look at some, and the operational is going to look at some. The land drainage, we've got a prioritisation project going on around what those projects are and what the future risk is.
Yeah.
And it's a lot wider than what was identified in the flooding task force.
Absolutely, it's
The
earthquake
operations
related.
group are picking up the remaining work that we don't have. We need to get that information back. I just want to signal. I mean, I think this is really important work to do. People were flooded and
Yeah,
had a
look,
history of
Yanni,
complaints.
the
So
trouble is that we
what's the
can't
process to do
see what it's as against.
Yeah.
So I'm perfectly happy for this to be referred to the operations program for consideration for priority repair as against others. But I want to know what else
Yeah, no, I agree.
needs to be
And
done.
I think that needs to come back to council. So it goes to the working party, then to council. Is that the process?
I don't know. Oh yes, of course,
Normally
council
the
signs
working
off on
group and
priority.
then the committee and council.
Yeah.
There's
Maybe
a report.
delegate to staff, so I'm not sure. So can we get it maybe in 2 months, a report back from the land drainage working party?
I have
on
no.
the
It's
operation?
not the land drainage recovery program. It's not
No,
the.
no, operational.
Yeah, it's the
whatever.
operation program. So,
We can brief you through that committee, and if the chair wants a report to go back, we
Yeah.
generally have a chair's report that comes out of all of the sessions we have.
I think that would be
And that
useful
goes
so
on
that
the
Yeah.
we can
agenda.
tell
we'll
what
just
projects are
we'll
being
just
done.
put that one on the agenda of the next meeting. So, of your committees, Pauline, you've got an item of agenda business
And
for your
maybe
next meeting.
before Friday, can we just get an understanding of how much demand is on that program versus, you know, what we currently have on budget?
Yeah, that's easy enough. So the demand on the budget, as compared to how much is on budget, that would be useful information. But could we have that this afternoon? I don't think that would take very long to sort out. Right. So we don't need to deal with that any further. So we will adjourn until 2 o'clock, and we'll see you at 2 o'clock.